Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So about 3 weeks ago I had a comment left on one of my videos asking to play like a mineral loose foundation and do an overall mineral based kind of base look. So that's what I'm going to do in today's video. It was left by Minnow. Apologies if that's incorrect, I'll put the name down here. But yeah, it says, do you ever use loose mineral foundations? I would love to see a video with only minerals for the base. So that's what I thought I'd do in today's video. I had to pick up one product, which was the foundation, because I didn't have a mineral foundation currently. I went with one that I know I've tried before, Lily Lolo Mineral Foundation. It was the first foundation and one of the first products I ever tried from them. So I thought, let's give that one a go. I did pick up a sample size just because I didn't want to go full size. I wanted to kind of refresh my mind with what the foundation was like. I'm also glad I did, because looking at the shade, it might be a bit too fair for me. I think I went porcelain, which was possibly incorrect for me. But I can kind of sort it out with the rest of the products. But I thought it would be an interesting video to do. And I was going to kind of talk about the pros and potentially some of the cons of a mineral foundation in comparison to like a liquid foundation. Definitely think some of the pros is they can be very lightweight. They almost feel quite effortless on the skin. Like sometimes with some of my liquid foundations you can kind of feel it on the skin. Nothing horrible, but you feel like you've got something on there. Whereas I feel a mineral based foundation, it's a bit more lightweight. You can't feel it as much on your skin. It's not the same as like a setting powder, where a setting powder can be quite dry on the skin or quite tight. It's a nice in between. And I find it kind of layers up really nicely. It's definitely a bit more easy on the skin as well. So if you've got blemishes or you suffer from like kind of acne and stuff, because this isn't really pore filling, it sits more, I'd say it sits more on top of the skin than soaking in. Like with a cream or a liquid, you kind of pat in and it kind of does sink into the pores, whereas you don't really find that with the mineral foundation, which I think again is really nice. If you've got sensitive skin or, like I said, problematic skin, this is going to be much more nice for you. I'd say it kind of suits all skin types, like especially oily skin. It's going to be nice, it's going to keep oils at bay, but even if you've got slightly drier skin, it's not anything heavy where it's going to really dry out your skin. I'll get onto the tips and tricks in a bit, but yeah, just giving the kind of pros and cons. And yeah, I find that you can build them up really nicely. They look lightweight on the skin, they give a really nice even finish. Like I said, for sensitive, problematic skin, it's going to look great. And if you're someone who doesn't like the cream liquids but also doesn't like a matte look, I think this is a good in between, because it still gives a bit of a sheen to the skin depending on the products you use. So that's good. I would say some of the cons is some of them can be a bit messy, because obviously a bit more in loose form. I do find you kind of have to play around with the products you use before you put it on to kind of get the right finish. So that's just some of the pros and cons off the top of my head that I can think of when it comes to mineral based products. But we'll start off, we'll just kick into it. So like I said, I've got the Lily Lolo Mineral Foundation. Like I said, I picked it up in porcelain, just the sample size. I love that they do sample sizes. And what they do now, which I didn't realise before, is if you get the big one, they actually do refillable packs. So you can just refill the big one you already had. It's been a good 4 years since I've played with this one, so I'm intrigued to try it. And if you do like your more mineral based, I'm happy to kind of do a series where like I test out a few more mineral foundations. I think I've tried Indigo before, but apart from that, that's probably about it. So I'm happy to kind of dig in and explore more in the mineral world. Definitely more than happy to do that. So let's start off with foundation. Now, I think, let me get my hair out of the way. First of all, in terms of kind of tips for applying this, is getting the right kind of skin conditions, if that makes sense, before you're applying. So if you're someone who do your usual skin routine, but depending on the moisturiser you use, if you use quite a thick moisturiser, you've got dry skin, maybe you use something like the Skin Food, you're going to want to let that settle in for quite some time before you go into this, because with any powders, they will kind of stick to any wet patches, so you want to make sure that's soaked in long enough, or just go with the moisturiser that sinks in quite nicely. You can go with primers. I'm not going to go with a primer today because I want to kind of show you without a primer how long lasting it is. So for me, I've got oily to combination skin. I've definitely got quite an oily T-zone. This is relatively normal. I do have slightly blemish prone chin. I do get like redness as well. So that's kind of my skin type and my skin conditions. So that is something to bear in mind with primer. So the primers I've tried, I probably wouldn't go in with the e.l.f. Power Grip Primer. I think it'd be too sticky. So you want something probably a bit more that's on the moisturising side, I would say, with these. Like I said, I can go further into this. If you saw my empties video, I've run out of the e.l.f. primer and it would have been quite good to test. And like I said, I'm more than happy to kind of play around with this concept video, try different primers, different kind of products to go with it and stuff. But so for me, I did my moisturiser probably about 30 minutes ago. I used the Nails Yard Rejuvenating Frankincense Hydrating Cream. So it's kind of similar to the Skin Food, but sinks in a lot quicker and not as rich and thick. And my skin feels really nice and soft, but there's a little bit of a tack, but nothing crazy. So you do want, it's getting that balance of a slight tack, but nothing too heavy, because otherwise the paddle will just stick to that one place and not blend. So that's kind of what I'd say the skin conditions need to be. Now for kind of tools, this is actually the Lily Lolo Kabuki brush. I think this was like a limited edition one because I can't see this colour on there anymore. But you're going to want, I would say, something quite nice and light and fluffy to begin with. The fluffier it is, the less products it's going to pick up, which if you're starting off with mineral foundation is going to be a good thing, because you can pick up a little bit at a time, layer up, instead of going in with something that's a bit more dense that's going to pick up too much product, pop it on your skin and it's going to be slightly harder to work with. So something like this, nice and light and fluffy. I'd say like any kind of kabuki brush, or like if you just got like a really nice fluffy big setting brush, that would also work quite nicely. So let's kick off. So that's kind of, like I said, that's my skin conditions currently, and that's the tool I'm going to use. So let's open this up. Like I said, the colour of this I think is going to be slightly off. So I'm just going to pop. Okay, the other con, I would say, although is it a con? The sifters can be a bit of a pain, but in terms of when I said about the con being slightly messy sometimes, the sifters do prevent it being as messy. But depending on how packed they are in the container, actually that's not too bad, that's quite a bit. So I've got some in there. What I'm actually going to do for ease is transfer it to a slightly bigger lid. This is the concealer from Lily Lolo, which I may have to mix in shade wise, we'll see, because otherwise the concealer is going to be a deeper shade on my skin than the foundation. And then what I do is just soak your brush, saturate your brush in it, but really coat the brush. Like, don't put too much in there. So like I said, go in with the light layers, but just really, when you put it in there, just really kind of use the lid to coat the brush, and it'll just distribute unevenly across the brush. You can't really see it on there, but it is there, and you can always tap off with it. And what I would do is circular motions to apply this. Like I said, you can build up, but just go in a layer at a time. Ooh, it smells really nice. But circular motions will just give you a bit more of an even finish. Let's just get my hair right out of the way. Okay, so that's light layer number one. You can already see that's reduced a bit of the redness. It looks really soft and smooth on the skin, which is really nice. I love this brush, this kind of stuff. The braver you get with these, you probably could take the sifter out and it'd be slightly easier, but we'll carry on with the sifter. So layer number two. Also, the more kind of you get to know the product well, you can go with like a denser brush and pick up more product at a time, but just to start off with, just go a bit at a time. Now I've done 2 light layers. You can see that's definitely made a difference. I'm quite red at the moment, and that's definitely reduced the redness. It doesn't make the skin look flat and matte. It's still got like a slight sheen to it, so it just makes your skin look almost a bit softer in a way. Okay, I'm going to do one more layer on this side, then we'll move on to the other side. And actually, maybe shade-wise, that wasn't too bad after all. And they do have colour correctors of these as well. So if you are someone that suffers a lot of redness, maybe you might want to go with the colour corrector first. The other mineral products aren't, there's one more Lily Lolo base, but I've tried to pick other mineral products that aren't purely Lily Lolo base, because I know I am a huge fan of Lily Lolo, but I'm trying to mix it up a little bit. Okay, so that's layer number one. I'd say also it definitely gives an overall more natural finish on the skin as well. So that's layer number two. And now I'm kind of showing it quite slowly, but it is also quite fast process as well, really. If I was doing this up talking and kind of demonstrating, this would be quite a quick application. And obviously it depends on your redness. I was quite red then. It's been quite warm outside today, and I've just done kind of straightened and curled my hair, so I've got a bit of redness. But if you didn't have as much redness, you probably wouldn't need 3 layers, just a couple of layers would do. But you can kind of keep building up and it doesn't look cakey, which also is a kind of pro of minerals. Or at least certainly of these mineral based products. I'm sure there are some that probably aren't kind of made as well as some others. Okay, so obviously I haven't done my chin, I haven't done my nose, I haven't done my forehead. I just wanted to show the cheeks, especially because that's the where the reddest part is. Let's zoom in a little bit. So obviously ignore around my nose. But yeah, it gives definitely a softer finish. You can't tell that I've really got foundation on, but it's definitely given some coverage, got rid of some of the redness as well, but it's looking very natural on the skin, which is good. So like I said, you could use a denser brusher if you want to get a bit more coverage on or really pack it on, but I'd say safety wise, go with a slightly fluffier brush. What I will do though, is now I've said that, is I'll take a denser brush just to kind of demonstrate. And I've done the swirling, so I've really kind of packed it up and packed it on. I'm just going to go in with an extra bit. You can see it's given me a bit more coverage. So the more layers you add, or kind of if you put a couple of layers down first, you can get away with going in with a heavier load and less kind of swirling with the brush, because it's got something to kind of work with. When you're going purely onto kind of moisturised skin, I'd say the lighter version works better, but then when you layer up, you can get a bit heavier with the layers. It still looks nice. Right, to balance myself out, I think it's time to do my chin and nose. Give a bit over the nose. I'm not too worried about the redness from my nose because I'll go in with, oh, well, let's kind of really tuck it down. I'll say I was going to go in with a concealer to sort that out, but that's done a pretty good job of reducing that. I would say now I'm putting on, I do think it's a touch too fair for me. I think it's a bit too on the pink side, but it's overall not a bad match, and with a bronzer and blusher I can definitely fix that. Okay, so that is my face with a couple of layers on. Obviously the cheeks had quite a few layers because I was just trying to demonstrate how you can build it up. And you can definitely see it's given coverage. Although it's very skin-like, you still see my freckles. But if you notice like the discoloration around my eyes and the redness that was there, it's definitely been reduced. I would say, well, certainly for this foundation, I don't think you're ever going to get a full coverage look necessarily. But it's definitely something you could build up and get a good medium coverage out of. But yeah, like I said, you can still see my freckles. Everything's looking a bit more even. It doesn't look super dry on the skin. Like I said, you still got a nice kind of sheen to the skin. But yeah, really lovely. So let's go ahead and do the rest. Carry on concealer, which is a Lily Lolo one, but apart from that, the rest aren't. And this is Barely Beige, which I've used before in videos, and I've even used it as a foundation. Problem with this is it is slightly deeper than porcelain. Another pro I was just about to say is you're not going to get the streak marks that you sometimes can get with liquid and cream foundations. Like I find sometimes, especially if I haven't cleaned a brush for too long, I can get a few streak marks which are hard to get out, so I go in with a secondary brush just to kind of pat them out. You're not going to get that with a mineral foundation as well, so that was something else. Right, so I'm going to go with a fluffy brush for this eye. I'm going to have to be careful with this because, like I said, this is a slightly deeper shade than the foundation. So we're going to ignore the colour match for today's video. It's more about application and technique. So let's zoom in. Fluffy brush. So I'm not doing too bad under the eyes actually. I'll just go in and we'll just dust this on. So yeah, oh, it gives like almost like a flawless finish as well, which is nice. I have used this before as well to set a cream foundation, a cream concealer, sorry. When I don't want to, because I do find it's lighter than some setting powders and less drying, and it can work quite nicely. So I'm just going to put a bit here. So even a fluffy brush that's given a good amount of coverage. We'll just do this side of the nose as well. There you go. And actually the fact it's slightly deeper, I don't think you can notice too much, which is a relief. So there you go. So even with a fluffy brush you get decent coverage. I would just recommend, like I said, if you're starting off, to go in with this. Now for chin, I'm going to put a quick dusting, but I probably would use a slightly denser brush for some blemishes. Okay, so for the other side I'm going to go in with the concealer brush. So I'm going to pick it up. And now the technique I use for something a bit denser is different with the concealer brush. So what I'll do is I'll go in and pat it on, like I would actually with a cream, to get that coverage down. And then once I'm happy, I'll then blend the edges out. So you can see it's definitely given a little bit more coverage, although they still both look pretty good and pretty covered. But this technique will just give you that ever so slightly more coverage. So again, it depends on your needs, depends on your kind of how dark your under eye circles are. Like I said, they do colour correctors, green and orange or peach. So whatever you need, they've got that as well if you need that. Or if, like I said, for my blemishes I probably would go in with this technique over the brush to give a bit more coverage. So depending on what your skin needs and the coverage that you would want, would depend on the technique. So I'm going to do this here. Again, that's pretty much got rid of my redness, which I'm happy about. And a bit on the chin. Like that. Now what I am going to quickly do is take the fluffy brush again. I'm just going to quickly go over the lids. So there was a bit of discoloration on the lid and around this section here. I'm going to still use the fluffy brush on this side as well, just to be a bit gentle with the eye. So yes, if you do have any dry patches, it's a good example, it can cling to that, I would say that. So make sure, obviously without irritate, so this is something I wouldn't want to exfoliate because it's irritated as opposed to just dry skin. But if you did have just dry skin, obviously make sure your skin's nice and exfoliated as well. This I don't really want to exfoliate because A, it's on a delicate area, and B, I think it's borderline eczema potentially. So I'm going to leave that alone. But you can see that's gone, redness wise. It's still a little bit peeking through, but in comparison to what it was, that's made a big difference. So, okay, so that's the foundation and concealer portion done. So, like I said, make sure your skin is nice and moisturised. There's a little bit of tack, but nothing too heavy where the foundation's just going to cling to a section. So, depending on what you use, either leave it an hour or use something that's going to soak in quite quickly. If you're starting off, I would say definitely use a kabuki brush. It's going to pick up slightly less product, and it's going to like kind of work into the skin easier. It's going to be easy to blend, and yeah, just work onto the skin. And you may need a few light layers, but it kind of covered up my redness really quickly. If you're used to kind of using a mineral, you can go with like a slightly denser brush and pack on the product and blend out, depending on what you're used to. And same for the eyes. I mean, to be fair, that fluffy brush and the eyes did well. That concealer did very well. And actually, I don't look, you can kind of tell that concealer's slightly darker than the foundation, but nothing too obvious, really. It gives like more of a demi-matte finish, I think, to skin, because you can see still nice and glow there. But if you've got oily skin, it's going to really help keep the oils at bay as well, which is good. But it's not looking flat or too matte. Nice and natural. It gives like a softer appearance to the skin, slightly more actually filtered blur like, I think. Still see my freckles through, but it's covered redness, and yeah. I'm glad I picked this up again actually, because it's been a while. Shade, I'm umming and ahhing over the shade, whether it was the right shade. I think it just needs a bit more yellow neutral for me. It's probably a bit too pink, but we'll go with it. Yeah, so let's just quickly move on to, I'm not going to do like my eyes and everything because I actually want to film a different video afterwards. But I'm going to bronze up my skin next. This is the Alima Pure Maracaibo bronzer, mineral base. I've used this before. This is lovely. The shade is lovely. And again, because it's a bit more lightweight, you can get a bit of a lighter bronze to the skin. So again, I'm going to use a kabuki brush like I do with my cream and liquid foundations. Same brush that I use for foundation, because it's going to have an element of foundation still left on there, and it's going to help blend really nicely. So I'm just taking it off to one side, picking up the product. And again, you can just buff onto the skin. Obviously you can take a slightly smaller fluffy brush if you want to, which I will do for the blusher. But for this works quite nicely, so it depends on your needs. And actually, I did quite enjoy Lily Lolo's mineral bronzer, if I remember rightly. But they had one with a bit of sheen to it, which was quite nice for summer. So if you're someone who really likes your glow, there are plenty which have a bit of sheen and shimmer to them. So you can still capture that. I didn't pick up a mineral highlight, I'll be honest, because that kind of highlighting effect I don't really tend to do anymore. I prefer like the natural glow with like the e.l.f. Halo Glow, or if this gives me a natural glow anyway, I'm kind of happy with that. I'm pretty sure the blusher I'm going to use has got an element of sheen and shimmer to it, so that will kind of just give me that natural glow I like. So this is the Inica Mineral Blush in Peachy Keen. Like I said, oh yeah, that's got, I don't know if you can see, that's definitely got a bit of shimmer to it, so that's going to help add a bit of glow. So now this one's come out of the sifter quite a lot, so this is where I say sometimes it can get a little messy. Oh, that's probably too much. So we have to do it playing around of kind of filtering from the pot to the lid to the pot to the lid, especially when it comes to something like a blusher. So you don't go too heavy. But let's go in with a fluffy brush. Take an angled brush like this, it's nice and fluffy. I do like the iconic London one I've got of these, but it has been used, so I want to use like a fresh brush for this. So again, now, like I said, blushes can be a bit more tricky, but tap into the lid, swirl around, and then what I actually do was then tap off from the back of your hand. So you want something on there, but you don't want, ooh, see, can you see that shimmer on there? Yeah. Okay, and then again, we're just going to go ahead. I think especially with like fluffy brushes, circular motions are probably best. I am going in with a relatively lightish though, but you can see it's quite an intense blusher. So just be careful. Like I said, it will blend nicely over all mineral products that you've just laid down. And you can see it's giving me that glow again. That is how it's looking. So yeah, that blush has got a bit of sheen and shimmer to it. So it adds that kind of glow. So if you do like the glow and worry about using mineral products, just find a bronzer or blush that's got a hint of shimmer and sheen. It will bring everything back to life. But like I said, the foundation itself gives definitely a demi-matte finish. So you've still got a bit of life to the skin. It's not too flat or lifeless. But yeah, this is how my skin is looking. It's looking quite medium coverage at the moment, so you can definitely build it up. Like I said, if you're someone who likes a full coverage, I don't know whether you can achieve that with this, but it certainly gives a medium coverage. And yeah, products sit really nicely on top. So so I'm going to leave that there. You could get in the setting spray. Lily Lolo does a setting spray, which is gentle on the skin. I do have this one here, but I'm going to leave it for today's video. I will actually come back later and do like a bit of a check-in, so you can see how nicely it's worn throughout the day and how my oils are behaving. So the time is currently 11:25. So yeah, we'll kind of check in, but back later and we'll round up this video. Okay, it hasn't been long at all. It's been about half an hour, but I just wanted to show you how it overall looked now I've done my eyes and stuff. So sneak peek to the next video. It's this kind of cool toned pop of lavender sort of look. But yeah, overall it looks really nice. It kind of, in terms of finish, although yes, despite the fact it's a different kind of products, one's powder, one usually I use cream, my skin overall still looks nice. It's still got that gentle glow, which I really liked the skin. It looks really pretty. Like I said, it's much more lightweight on the skin though than a cream and liquid foundation. So yeah, so I'll wear it now throughout the day. I just want to quickly do check in with the full look on, and we'll see kind of how well it wears throughout the day. Okay, so I thought I'd do my little check-in now. It is almost 4 o'clock, so I say it's just over 5 hours it's been on my skin. Obviously my lips have come off because I've been eating, but overall, I mean, I don't think my oils are slightly coming through, but overall my skin looks no different from how it did this morning. So that is definitely one of the benefits of minerals, is it's going to keep your oils at bay. It's going to keep you relatively, not matte, but set throughout the day. So thank you to the person that suggested this. I'm glad I picked up the Lily Lolo foundation again. Like I said, if you want me to test other mineral foundations, please do let me know, because I'm up for trying more. I do think my preference is still creams and liquids. I just like the really glowiness of it. But I really love how matte this has kept my skin, or not matte, but how much it's kept my oils at bay. So I will definitely be playing with it a lot more. There will be another foundation video coming very soon, because as I mentioned, I've got the Kosas BB Burst. So that'll be coming soon. I need to start testing that. But overall, I'm loving how this looks. I really hope you enjoyed this too, and I hope my tips and tricks were helpful, and just kind of my thoughts and opinions on mineral based foundations and just mineral based products in general. Like I said, if you've got any recommendations, leave them down below. If you want me to test any more out, let me know what you'd like me to test out and I can do that for you. And yeah, I hope this was helpful and I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in my next video.